Good evening. I want to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners and welcome all of you. We have a real full house tonight. That's always exciting. A lot of exciting things are going on. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Wendell Middle School student Reagan Downing. If you can come up to the podium, please, ma'am. Ralph Lauren said that fashion is not about labels, it's not about brands, it's something else that comes from within you. We would like to celebrate Reagan Downing, one of our current 8th grade students at Wendell Magnet Middle School, who does have a style about her that transcends the ever fashionable ensembles that she puts together. While her outfits are unique and interesting, they are simply a metaphor for the person that she is. Reagan demonstrates respect for others and a motivational spirit that cannot be contained in everything that she does. Whether Reagan is advocating for herself or others, excelling in schoolwork, participating in clubs or athletics, she emits a drive and passion that is unrivaled. Reagan is unapologetically herself, and those qualities that shine through her come from deep within the kind, compassionate, and selfless fabric of her soul. That's so very nice. We are proud to celebrate Reagan Downing and look forward to seeing all the great things that she will accomplish. Well, it was my pleasure to meet you tonight, and I look forward to seeing what you're going to accomplish too. I'm sure it's going to be great. So.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Reagan. Our invocation, we're going to hear from Brian Craddock from the Wendell Christian Church. Good evening.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Will you pray with me? Dear Lord, we thank you. We thank you for your goodness, and we praise you for your greatness. Greatness that you created all of us. Made the world a beautiful place to walk hand in hand with you and with each other. Of course, we got away messing things up, so we thank you for your goodness, that you love us in spite of ourselves. So help us be better neighbors, better leaders, better citizens of your world. Help us to be one nation under God. Move us to the people that you made us to be. May we use our powers for good. And Lord, move us to work together for the betterment of all people, especially those who are considered the least of these, for they are most valuable in your sight. And protect us. Keep communities like this one safe. Let your light shine bright in this new year, and give us the wisdom to walk in your path together. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you very much. Are there any adjustments to the agenda tonight? All right, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right, we'll move into our public comment period. The public may participate in the public comment by signing up the night of the meeting right by the door, and you will have 3 minutes to speak, or you can submit written statements via email to the town clerk. They need to be received the Friday before the Monday board meeting at 5 p.m. Please include your full name and address for the record, and comments that are timely received will be read into the record for a length of 3 minutes. We have none tonight. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's move into our recognitions, reports, and presentations. Item 4A is the recognition of the Wendell Rams Pee Wee football team. I think we're going to hear from Lynn Boykin. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board. I'd like to just give a summary of our season.
Okay.
For the Wendell Rams Pee Wees, which are 11 and 12-year-olds. We were undefeated, 11-0, and we beat our rival Nightdale for the second time, 19-18 in the Super Bowl championship game. Very tight game. We were behind 12-0 at the half, came back in the second half, and beat them by 1 point, 19-18. We had 30-plus boys and coaching staff, and we're just elated with our season. We had just a great season. You know, it was a tough season too. Long season, tough season. And we really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the boys. Even Coach Gray's, Mayor Gray's children too as well, years ago. I believe they won some championships too.
Charlie, but not Sam.
Oh, okay.
He's
Well,
still
at least
bitter
one of
about
them
it.
did. I think he played him one, didn't win it.
They did,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Yes.
But I got a T-shirt that I got on, just like it, Mary Gray, and I'd like for you to have it, please.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank y'all very much.
And just to give you a further summary on the season, we played Nightdale twice. We had 11 games, 5 of them were by a touchdown or less. And 2 of them were against Nightdale, 6-0 early in the season, and then 19-18 in the Super Bowl. We played the Panthers out of Johnson County twice and beat them both times. And it was just, it wasn't a blowout. We had a few of them, but 5 of them were touchdown or less, which means it was a very tough season.
That's
All right.
okay.
Any coaches want to add anything?
Thumbs up.
Well, I want to thank you for everything you do for our youth in Wendell, not
Yeah.
boys and girls, and you help raise up fine young people. And your parents and your coaching staff and all, y'all are wonderful ambassadors for us when you travel all around all these games, and it makes me really proud. And I may have called the Nightdale mayor and discussed this with her. I did, actually. So she said, I knew I was going to hear from you. I said, yeah, you did, didn't you? So anyhow,
Nightdale's
I'm real
close by.
proud of y'all. So thank you for everything that you do for our kids.
Well, you think?
Years and years and years of it.
Yeah,
It's
I
hard
knew
for me
you'd
not,
say
it's hard for
something.
me not to talk.
I know.
Bob.
Go ahead, Teddy.
You know,
I knew.
I coach your boys, so you know.
Yeah.
We both
Sam
did.
was, my defensive dog. But anyway, no, it's like this. The way we do at Wendell is if you don't take time with the youngins, the wrong person will. And that's the way I look at it with my grandkids. I got a grandchild that's playing. I got a granddaughter that's cheering. And it's a good program. There's been a lot of guys and girls that go on to do a lot of good stuff. And like I said again, I think we got a good group of guys. We thank y'all for taking care of the Rams. You know, when it started way back today, it was handled by the town.
Yeah.
And then me and Lynn took it over. And that was back in 95, I think.
95.
95, and both our boys played on the first Wendell Super Bowl in 95, beat Wake Forest 6-0. And that was the very first Super Bowl in 95, and Wendell won that. And me and Lynn's been together now for 30 years. And I'm basically retired. Got an excellent guy over there, his son-in-law that coaches the defense now, Mark Phillips. Great guy. But I still like to be involved, so got a good group of guys and a lot of good girls, and I'm just glad that y'all stood behind us like y'all have and looking out for us for our future.
He's a
being
coach
with
emeritus now.
Coach Emeritus.
you. Whatever that means, I don't
That's
know.
okay.
I can't even spell it.
No.
I'll never let him retire.
You're very humble, but I don't think people realize. I know my own experience. I saw many children get rides. I saw many children get fed over and over and
He
over.
carried 2 or 3
Equipment.
kids home every
Every night, I
Monday
bet.
night, Tuesday night, Thursday night, and then some of them stayed at his house on the weekend for the game for Saturday.
Because they need, you know what?
Him and Tookie both.
I know that about Tookie as
Tookie
well.
Elliott,
Yeah. So I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. Thank you
Thank
for
y'all for
sharing
having
your
us.
kind
Thank
heart
y'all
with
for
our
having us.
kids. Thank you. Would y'all like to take a picture? You want to take a picture in here? Let's take a picture.
Yeah, come on up here.
Whoever wants to come up right up here, line up, take a picture. That's okay. It's a school night. It's a school night. It's a school night, I understand. Thank y'all. Thank you. All right, item 4B is the recognition of Wendell Middle School teacher Cheryl Faison. This is just a feel-good night tonight. When we think of Cheryl Faison, we think of the selfless person who treats her work family as she would her own personal family. She is always quick to help, support, and comfort anyone who needs it, always without an expectation of anything in return. For those who do not know, Cheryl Faison is retiring from our school, and we want to take a minute to celebrate her. Leo Tolstoy put forth 3 questions that will always guide us. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? And what is the right thing to do? The best time to do anything is always now, because we are never promised tomorrow. Cheryl Faison has certainly put others before herself every moment because she values and cherishes the relationships she has with each student and staff member that she meets, and she is always trying to say yes to every request, even if the request has her walking 1,000,000 steps. While she has given greatly to our school, now is the time for her to do the things that she's always wanted to do and put herself first. The most important one is always the ones we are with. Cheryl Faison has put the needs of our school first. She's never complained, but rather she makes an active decision to find joy in everything she's doing. While the school has been important, you are leaving it better than you found it. It is now time to make someone else the most important one, lifting them up and bringing cheer in only the way that you can do. The right thing to do is what is right for you and those who are always by your side. Cheryl Faison is the cheer, the sunshine, and the positive energy because she has a family that stands by her side, and they're all here tonight, lined up back there. As Cheryl Faison retires, we want to wish her well. We want her to know that in this moment, now is the best time to do things. She is the most important one, and the right thing to do is to celebrate the gift she has been to Wendell Magnet Middle School. So, we wanted to have you here tonight and recognize you and congratulate you on your retirement. I don't know what I'm going to do on Arbor Day now without you there, but I'll be all right. And we wanted to thank you for what you do and have done for many, many years for our kids in Wendell. It's no
Thank you.
small
It's-
feat.
It's
Thank
been
you.
an honor to work and serve in this great town.
Thank
And
you.
I'm looking forward to the next chapter. And
Wow.
so thank you. It's
We
been an
wish you the
honor.
very best of luck in your next adventure. It's going to be great.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, item 4C is considerations for the merger of the Wendell Fire and the Town of Wendell. We're going to have a presentation by Wake County Fire and Emergency Management, and I believe we're going to hear from Mr. Darrell Alford.
Ma'am,
How are
thank
you tonight,
Mayor
Darrell?
Gray, and good to see you, Town Council.
Good to see you.
For those of you who don't know, my name is Darrell Alford. I'm the Director of Fire and Emergency Management for Wake County, and I was born in Wendell, and I still live right outside of town, and you'll see me every once in a while walking with my wife in downtown Wendell, and this is where we shop, and this is where we do business. So, thank you so much. Have we got the presentation?
Yes, it's going to take 2 minutes and get the presentation going. That's fine, absolutely. Ready? You just click the arrow.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, are you aware of of who's just entered the building?
Now, I looked around to make sure Police Chief Slaughter was in here.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
Yeah, we're good.
I think they did this on purpose, just to make sure you got here on time.
We're having a presentation glitch. We'll get it.
Jason, you take one night off and look at us. We're just,
It's weird to see him sitting out there. It's odd. A shirt. I'm gonna wear it. On here and she should have to put it like up at night. Big collars. I knew I was here from you. Braxton's like bombing me with friend requests and stuff now on Saturday. I'm like getting flooded with them. I'm like, decline, decline, decline. I know, right? I just saw them.
All right. So again, thank you for your time, and again, thank you for what you do for the town of Wendell. We're here tonight to talk about the town of Wendell and a possibility of a merger between the not-for-profit fire department going up under the umbrella of town government. So presentation topics would be, what are the current operations? For y'all, what is the fire tax district? Town of Wendell and county's relationship with that, and the Wendell Homes Fire Department. And then what would a cost share model look like for the town of Wendell and the impact that it would have on the fire tax district or the unincorporated areas? What is the impact on the town of Wendell citizens? Impact on the town of Wendell, impact on the fire department? And then what are the next steps and recommendations? So what is the fire tax district? In 1998, the then Board of Wake County Commissioners, by resolution, created the fire tax district overlay. So before that, you see all those colors up there? They were all fire departments, and they all had their own individual taxing rate. Some may have been charging 5 cents per $100 value, some as much as 10 or 12 cents per $100 value. But the county said, after, and you'll see in a second, we talk about a study, but in 98, again, they established that, and they reset all those insurance districts to a zero value for taxing purposes. They established a fire commission as an advisory body to the Board of Commissioners, and we started at 8.5 cents in the county. That was in 99. There was a 10-cent tax cap established with that. We raised that cap and came to y'all back in 2021 and moved that cap up to match the state level at 15, which is a general statute. In 1994, the county hired a company called TriData to do a study and to look at the fire services across the county. That study revealed that the current model of everybody doing their own individual taxing rate was causing inequities with funding and with resources. At that time, we had 22 not-for-profit fire departments that all had individual tax rates. A real-world example, if we were still there, there's an eastern department here in Wake County that has an annual budget of $1.4 million. If they were just taxing within their fire district now, their tax rate would have to be 30 cents per $100 just to fund their budget. There's a department in the northern part of the county that has a $4.3 million budget. Their tax rate would only have to be 6 cents. Our current fire tax rate in the county is 12.25. So again, when the county was doing this, the town of Wendell had a mayor at the time that was put on the fire commission, and that mayor said, I think it'd be great if the town of Wendell just went up under and was part of that single fire tax district. It left the burden of having to deal with the Wendell Fire Department for contracting and having to worry about funding. That was a very good decision by the town of Wendell at that time to be a part of the fire tax district. Y'all did it by resolution, and again, we updated again in 21 when we moved the tax cap. So what is the current relationship? So the town of Wendell contracts with the not-for-profit Wendell Fire Department to provide fire protection with the town limits with no funding attached. The county does your taxing, and we collect it for you. We do a contract as well for Wendell to cover the unincorporated areas, and we levy that fire tax. On a separate note, and one doesn't have anything to do with the other, but on a separate note, the town of Wendell and Roseville are the only two municipalities that still use the county for fire code enforcement within the town. The fire marshal's office that comes in and does the inspections for your businesses. And we do that, and it's a rolling 3-year average at a 1 cent per square foot of inspection cost. Just keep that in mind. We'll talk about that later. Wendell Fire Department. It has a career staff of 42 employees, supplemented by part-time volunteers equaling a total of 60. They have 3 firehouses. 2 of those are co-locations with EMS. And this is calendared, all this data you'll see tonight is based on calendar 24, not calendar 25, but calendar 24. In calendar year 24, they ran 2,878 calls, with 1,233 of those in the town of Wendell. They have an annual operating budget of a little over $5 million. We have some non-debt estimated capital expenditures that I'll show you in a second that equal $238,000 a year, and then estimated annual debt payments of $726,000. Because I wanted to give you the full picture, that $726,000 takes into consideration an engine and a ladder truck that we just ordered that won't be here for 2 or 3 years. But again, I want you to have the full picture when you were looking at this. Here's how I got that $238,000 fire protective gear. We do things on replacement cycles that are governed by the NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Association, and then best practices across the industry. So you have protective gear that has to be replaced annually in some cases, medical exams that your firefighters have to go under, air packs, defibs, thermal imaging cameras, bulletproof vests. You can see all that. So those would be costs that you would need to either save for in somehow or be willing to pay on an annual basis of $238,000. Your debt payments. The Wendell Falls Fire Station, or Wendell Fire Station 3, is financed out through 2039 at an annual cost of $276,000 per year. There's an engine that'll be in next year that will be financed. The county self-finances the engines from the county debt fund. Instead of us going out and borrow from banks, we borrow it from the bigger, because the fire tax district is kind of an enterprise fund. So we borrow from the bigger county. So the engine coming in next year, that would be, end of payment will be 2037 at 110. It's another engine coming in a couple of years and then a ladder truck, so your total is $726,000. What you don't see on here is a new fire station that is under design right now that will open up on Riley Hill Road and will give you better coverage out towards Lizard Lick and Ammons Acres that we have been saving money for. So that is not included in here because we've already taxed your citizens for that, and we've been saving that cash. So the total, when you put all that together, is a little over $6 million is your annual cost for operations for the Wendell Fire Department, including debt and things. So the single fire tax district, we taxed at 12.25 cents, we talked about a few seconds ago, in all the unincorporated areas and the town of Wendell. Well, with y'all included, in last year's budget process, the revenue was $64.25 million. If you pull out Wendell, that revenue goes to $60.03. So the town of Wendell fire tax revenue is $4.23 million, again, based on last year. So why should y'all consider, and why should the fire department, why should everyone consider a unification process now? And you call it whatever you want to, if it's a merger, a unification, whatever, but why should you consider that? Well, the town of Wendell, as you know, is one of the fastest growing communities in the state. Under our current model, the town, you, have no authority over how the fire department operates or spends its funds. You just have a contract that simply says, y'all take care of our fire protection if something catches on fire in the town of Wendell. The town of Wendell is now the only municipality left that does not govern the fire service within their corporate limits. Garner's not-for-profit fire department merged in last July 1st, as well as Roseville. And under the current model, the town of Wendell has no authority on how their citizens are taxed for fire services. All that's on the county. Over the last 4 years, Town Manager Collins and I, along with Chief Staples and others, have met to say, what does this look like? How would it look if it happened? When's the timing right? So we've been having these conversations. It's not something that has just popped up. Fire department's been involved in those conversations, as I said. Wendell Fire Department Board and the town of Wendell leadership believe that the timing is right for us to really get serious about this process. So what is the first step? Is what would a cost share look like for the town of Wendell? And when I say cost share, because all the fire departments cover town property and then an unincorporated area around that, you have to determine how do we figure out, for fire department's budget is $6 million, at what portion does the county pay and at what portion does the town of Wendell pay? So what does a cost share look like? Our current cost share model we established back in 2016. This model utilizes data-driven elements to determine cost share for both parties. We revisit this model every once in a while just to make sure that it's valid and to get input from the towns if one thinks they're being slighted or something just doesn't look right. We last updated it in 2022. So here's the data elements and the weighted things that are put on there. So first we look at service demand, which is the cost for service. I showed you the numbers a while ago on the total calls that Wendell ran, 1233 in town, and the remainder was in the county. So we look at calls. That call volume significantly drives what it costs to operate your fire department. Fuel, manpower, different things like that. Population. Population drives call volume. So those two are weighted the highest as you look at the table on the right. Property valuation is next, area, and then heated square feet. All values for determining that are based upon data elements within the contracted areas of the department except for service demand. I'll tell you a little bit about the service demand. If you go under this model, if the Wendell Fire Department runs a call anywhere in Wake County, that call is credited as a county call. The only calls at Wendell is calls that happen within the city. If the Wendell Fire Department goes mutual aid to the town of Zebulon, that call is just discarded. We don't charge it to the town because that's not fair, and we don't charge it to the county. It's just pushed to the side. Same thing with calls that take place out of the county. So service demand is, we get that data directly from CAD, not the department's individual record management systems, and the CAD is the 911 Center's computer-aided dispatch. If anytime I use a term like that, just say, hey, if you don't know what that means. Square miles, heated square footage, and property value is from the Wake County real estate records. And then the population comes from Wake County Planning and GIS. So what would a Wendell cost share look like? So the first table, to your left, you see the population of the county, the population of the town, what the property value is for both, heated square feet, square miles, and call volume. The next table in the center is just the pure percentage. So the population of, if you add those two populations together, the county has 30, right at 31%, the town, just same way all the way down. The last table to the right is when we do those weighted values. So if we were doing a cost share right now, based on last year's model and data, the town of Wendell would be responsible for almost 55% of that total of $6 million budget that we talked about a while ago, the all-in budget cost. Any questions so far?
Mayor, I've got one quick one. Is that an annual update? These,
Yes, sir. So the
Okay.
cost share, so we just sent the cost share out to our cost share municipalities today. We do that as quick as we can at the first of the year because you're doing your budget process, and actually our fire department's budgets and county budget was due last Friday. So yes, it is revisited annually and it's updated. And once you get into it, it's on a rolling 3-year average, so you don't have spikes. In case y'all do a big annexation or you have a bunch of calls or something, it's on a rolling 3-year average.
and the weights don't change?
Weights do not change.
One quick thing, on your number about just the size of the fire department, is that total number the number of people or like the full-time equivalency? Is 80 people or 80?
43 total career, and then 17 supplemented volunteers for a total of 60.
But 17 people, not 17 full-time equivalents based off the amount of time they're volunteering or part-time or whatever. Okay. Thank you.
So here's the numbers. I mean, we talked again about the $6 million budget a while ago. If we look at those, if we were doing a cost share based on last year's numbers, the town share would be 3.3 million, and the county share would be 2.7 million. So what is the impact to the fire tax district with removing the town of Wendell from the fire tax district? If you just run the numbers right there and you look, I showed you where y'all were at a little over $4 million a while ago, and then you back up a slide and you see that the county's now only at 2.7 needs and so forth. It's actually a net loss to the fire tax district once everything gets paid out of almost $1 million, $919,000. And I tell you that just to show, because I want to be transparent with everything, because we've been talking about this for the last 4 years, in our fire tax budget model, we have built in a merger possibility so that we can make sure that when this happened, we wouldn't like sink. We wouldn't sink, but it wouldn't be like cause a tax increase for us to have to do that wasn't planned. So town of Wendell residents, what's the impact of them? They're the most important ones. Well, the county would no longer assess the fire tax. We would still assess the tax for you, but we wouldn't assess the fire tax. Your town of Wendell residents, when they get their bills right now, they see a county tax, a town tax, and then a fire tax. So that would be gone. By way of a voting process, town residents could be asked to choose how large capital projects are funded. Town of Wendell would control how much residents are taxed for services. It would no longer be on the county. What's the impact on town government? Well, the fire department immediately, if y'all did this, would be one of the largest departments in the town. This will require, probably, human resource staffing to handle payroll and other related issues. Could require additional finance and budgeting positions. And then, you know, we talked about the fire code enforcement piece a while ago. Based on your commercial growth, at the same time you do it, is probably smart for y'all to take on the code enforcement responsibilities as well. Not saying you have to, just saying you could. What are the fire department impacts? Well, Fire department administrative staff of 3. There are 3 of them. There's a chief and assistant chief and administrative assistant. They do all the payroll and do all the financials and everything right now for the fire department. So if they're brought over, you know, you would then have some assistance from town government on payroll, again, HR assistance, things like that. Very important for retention of employees, this bullet, is fire department employees would become members of the local government employee retirement system. Huge benefit. I think Chief Staples will tell you that almost every exit interview he's ever done for a fireman that's staying in the industry, when they go to another fire department, they're going to a municipality because of elders. Fire department employees would receive a bridge to Medicare if they had 20 consecutive years employed with the town, and other benefits that you have. That's just a big one. We don't have that in Wake County anymore. We did away with that. Doesn't matter how long you work for Wake County now. You don't get a bridge to Medicare. So what is a path to a merger? I briefed our board in small meetings. We're briefing y'all tonight. We briefed the fire commission, the manager's office, we briefed, and we have support from the county manager's office. We have a unanimous vote by the Wendell Fire Department Board last Monday night to proceed with this, and we had a unanimous vote by the Fire Commission to recommend to move this forward into your laps to see if it is a possibility that we should continue merger talks with a proposed date of July 1 of 2027. So that gives a full 17 or 18 months to get all this done. And then it would be our recommendation that if y'all choose to move forward, that we have the Wendell Fire Department hire NC Fire Chiefs Consulting. They have performed every one of these mergers, Wake Forest, Roseville, Garner. They're very familiar with the process with Wake County and local governments. They do a lot of work in putting together documents that you need before they go to attorneys, so neither one of us are paying large attorney fees on either side. So that would be our recommendation, and it is the county's recommendation that we do move this forward. We think the timing is right. And I'll be glad to take any questions, or I'll refer to Mark on what we do now.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Can you talk just a little bit more, Daryl, about the logic, the why taking over the inspections would be valuable for the town right now?
Well, it is a revenue generator, but it's not going to pay for what you do. It keeps all those decisions making within the town and the planning department and the town manager and other things like that, instead of us coming in and doing inspections like that. You could charge fees for your new construction. And that you know, we do the new construction. Y'all would take over everything but schools if you chose to do that. We, by a local agreements and by general statute, do all the schools in Wake County, new construction and up.
Would that then require additional headcount?
Yes, ma'am.
And then,
It would, that's my opinion. I'm not your town
Yeah.
manager. My opinion, it would.
It would also bring the interlocal agreement that we have with the county, that we pay them for the service, we would retain that.
back to your earlier analogy or description, kind of the current relationship of Wendell citizens get taxed, the funding goes to nonprofit, and we have an agreement that says nonprofit's going to take care of fire services in town. With the cost share model with the county, in some senses, does the county kind of end up in that situation? In other words, what I'm trying to ask is, what sort of responsibilities does a town-run fire department have, or what sort of authority, I guess, does the county have over a town-run fire department because of the cost share? Are there agreements
Absolutely none.
associated with the management, I guess?
It is absolutely none.
Okay.
We do an agreement with the town of Wendell for them providing fire protection outside. All their governance then becomes on y'all.
It's sort of like what we are now to the nonprofit, the county then becomes to the town.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Other than we would provide whatever cost share is that funded. Yep.
Mayor, is there a projection on what the impact will be to us, or I said to the taxpayer, but what the cost is going to be? So obviously, if we share the revenue and share some of the expenses for the unincorporated areas, and we know what the costs are, we know what the 12.25 cents are, what's the net to the town?
if I may, that we need to do those studies as part of the next year
Okay,
with the fire service. He gave you the 24 numbers.
okay.
We need to bring it up to the merger date. We need to make sure that we have all the costs incorporated in. It's not fair right now to say what
Copy.
neutral is. He mentioned a couple positions. We also are going to need someone to work on facilities with several different facilities. There's probably about 5 positions right now that we've identified internally, and there's additional capital costs moving forward. So now would not be the time to derive a budget for one of our largest department, if not the largest department, 2 years out. Let's work on that in that budget year.
Thank you. One more question. So, to Kate's point, to some degree, the fire code enforcement and the inspection, we're talking about bringing all that into us, theoretically.
That is just my opinion, you should do that. Those are not tied together. You can do one without doing the other. If y'all want to do the merger with just the fire department and take over fire protection services, we're happy to keep the other part. We just thought it would probably go hand in hand.
Okay, so just to get my mind around this, the 3 things is, if you want to call response as one,
Yep,
and then fire inspection,
it's a completely different animal.
and then there's code enforcement.
Same thing.
Okay, inspection and code enforcement. So if you're going to build something new, or I'm going to go inspect you to make sure your 30-year-old warehouse is up to code, or there might be a violation, that's the same department?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yep,
thank
new
you.
construction and periodic code enforcement are the same,
Except for the schools, which,
except for the schools.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, anyone else?
Madam Mayor, I just want to make a quick comment. I'm a math guy, so I'm kind of digging through it. I do realize that this is preliminary. We have a long runway here, so I'm not going to dig into the math, but I just, want to make sure that we all understand that this is a presentation. This is essentially a briefing on how we feel and what we feel like we should do moving forward. We are the only ones currently that are not doing it this way.
That is correct.
Okay.
And this is completely up to y'all. I am fine if we stay the way they are, you are, but I do think is the right thing to do at this point in time for the town of Wendell.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Another Elders question, and in a lot of ways, authority is great, and it's always interesting to talk about who has authority over what, but the employee benefit is a big, sort of the biggest carrot in my mind, or reason that this is important for us to talk about. Does Elders provide, and if this needs to be answered later, that's fine, but is there a way for folks that are 20 years into their career to be able to buy in or anything, or it's all looking forward?
It's an astronomical price.
Okay.
So there is no negotiations other than buying your way in
Okay.
to the Elders program and buying your time back. There's nothing, we've gone through this, and everyone, there's nothing you can do to get them into Elders again without buying it
Other
back.
than,
And it's-
that's an individual employee's
state.
decision.
Yes, sir, that's individual employees. But you are vested after 5 years. And the county does a great job in putting money into their retirement packages. So there is a balance there, that if someone can just come and stay 5 years and get a reduced benefit when they retire, there is some merit to that.
Okay.
One more question on that. Clarify the Medicare piece. You said something about the county does not currently.
So that, he's talking about a specific benefit in the town of Wendell that likely will get sunsetted with us as well. If someone works for 20 consecutive years for the town of Wendell, their health insurance costs are covered after employment. So basically work out your whole career. A lot of people don't work 20 years anymore. However, it is a consideration that we have to, if you're bringing in a department full of younger employees, there could be a possibility that there's a cost with that. We're evaluating alternatives to that.
So that's the Wendell piece that we have to fit together.
Most jurisdictions across the country phased back out of that really with the Great Recession in the late 2000s. Wendell has, y'all's previous boards have modified that personnel policy and provision 3 or 4 times since it was created. And it's very narrow, and there's a very limited number of employees right now that are close to getting that. But we still pay off some vestige, in health insurance costs. Usually you cover the gap until 65 with Medicaid, Medicare kicking in. And we'll dig into numbers. I know you said 42, 43.
Employees.
And then I guess 17 or 18
Volunteers.
part-time and volunteers.
43 full-time employees, probably 5 or 6 that work part-time, and then supplemented by 12 to 15 true volunteers.
And those are the folks that we were looking at that are essentially Wendell folks. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Mayor, I'm gonna make one more statement if I could. I think fundamentally, and this for more for the public than us, but you know, when people see us talking about these kind of things, and obviously money affects, and I appreciate the town manager we won't know until we go through the process. But I think fundamentally, anytime you bring a core service town provision, which in this case is fire prevention or inspection, closer to the people that have to answer to it is a better thing. So for the town of Wendell to control the means, those resources, is a better thing for the people of Wendell eventually. That's item one. Item two, I have great respect for the people on that back row and on this side that voted unanimously for it, so I can't wait to see what you and the town manager and staff put together for us to see. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'll just mention in passing is when the board hired me 7.5 years ago, the numbers went the other way. It was about $1 million to $1.5 million to the good of the Wendell taxpayer to be in it. And just the last few years, it's flipped the other way to where 24 would be a 900. We're paying more into the Wake County Fire District than our proportionate share to the tune of being able to cash fund a building over several years. So it's time from a fiscal standpoint, as a people-first organization, taking care of our first responders, it's time to look at making sure they're cared for like all the other firefighters across the county and municipalities.
Mark and I have had several conversations about it. We saw it coming. It's a good. It's a good.
There's no formal action on this, but if I could get just an informal motion and just we authorize the town manager to pursue negotiations. We'd bring back any agreement and interlocals and everything to the board in due time, but just to formally give me permission.
I think you have that. I see heads shaking. So give us some more information.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have no public hearings tonight, so we'll move into our administrative items. And the first is item 6A, fiscal year 2026 annual operating budget ordinance amendment number 2. We're going to hear from our finance director, Garrett Johnson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor,
Good evening.
Board of Commissioners. Believe the presentation's being pulled back up. There we are. So coming back to you for a second time to propose a budget amendment for the annual operating budget ordinance. Most recently adopted it back in September. I know we have a couple new commissioners. The goal is to always maintain a balanced budget, which is revenues and savings equals your expenditures. Those might not be the actuals, but that's a projected budget. They have to statutorily be balanced. So there were a handful of items that needed to be addressed. A few that you saw in your packet were for GASB, or Governmental Accounting Standards Board's requirements. There were some expenditures, but there's some offsetting revenues that go with that. That was about $270,000, but again, that's kind of it is self-sufficient. We are requesting funding for additional administrative department salaries. The new assistant town manager, the second position, and the HR director position were hired above the budgeted rate. So this is requesting new funding for that, but that is being pulled internally from other departments that currently have currently and projected through the remainder of the year have some lapsed salary. So those are self-sufficient if approved. A big one is requesting funding for the purchase of a dump truck with a snowplow attachment. This was budgeted, I believe, last fiscal year, maybe 2 years ago. It's hard to, Mark's giving me two. The supply chain became an issue. We did not refund it this year. Then we heard, hey, it's coming in. So we're requesting some funding or reallocation of funding to make that purchase. The majority of it's coming from, again, lapsed salaries within the Public Works related departments and divisions, with the remainder being offset by some revenue funds that came in over anticipated, particularly Powell bill, but as well as the motor vehicle license fees. And then some more, a few fund structure adjustments, moving some funds out of general fund into the stormwater fund. With this being our first year of operating the stormwater fund as an enterprise fund, we're constantly catching more expenditure types that were originally budgeted in the general fund but need to be moved out to best cost allocate our stormwater enterprise operations. So those were already budgeted in one place. We're just moving it to a separate fund, which again requires y'all's authorization. And then finally, a couple transfers to our capital project funds. The general project fund, which is everything not stormwater related, need to request a little bit of additional funding to cover some contract overages, particularly with the Public Works yard, which is hopefully closing out in the next couple months, as well as the Carver Community Center at Pleasant Grove project. And the stormwater one was just kind of a budget correction. The debt service fund, we did catch a budgeting error, but fortunately we had some funds in excess that we were kind of setting aside for future payments. So that's just being rolled over to current debt with a little bit left over, as well as recognize some interest earnings that we're getting from some dedicated funds we've set aside. And then the stormwater fund was mentioned earlier with just the general fund transfer. So with that, requesting adoption of the budget ordinance amendment.
Any questions from the board?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 003-2026, amendment number 2 of the fiscal year 2026 annual operating budget ordinance.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to adopt ordinance 003-2026, amendment number 2 of the fiscal year 2026 annual operating budget ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right, thank y'all. All right, keeping with Garrett, the General Government Capital Project Ordinance Amendment Number 2.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll skip over the boilerplate statement. It's just an effort to keep things balanced. Big thing that we're doing is recognizing some interest earnings. The bond funds that we took out in July, general fund dollars that we're setting aside for allocation towards these capital projects, the Public Works yard loan proceeds that are still being spent down, they're all collecting interest. And in the budget, we had not put any numbers towards that. This is getting caught up and projecting forward a little bit. That way that interest is staying with, in capital projects, we're doing our best to keep it with as if a project is 50% of the total budget, 50% of interest hopefully can stay with that project. No guarantees there, but it'll stay towards capital is the big thing. We're reappropriating some bond funds that we thought we were going to have spent in the prior fiscal year with the Pleasant Grove project. That was $600,000. Just bringing that forward to capture in our budget for future spending. Reallocating some expenditures that were already appropriated from the Buffalo Creek Greenway project to the Main Street Greenway project. The Buffalo Creek Greenway project, which I believe actually is, the contract might be getting approved later tonight, has come in a little bit under budget, and there's some components of the Main Street project that are coming in over, so we're just shifting that around. LAP project at the intersection of Wendell Boulevard, Wendell Falls Parkway. Again, kind of reconciling that project. We thought we were going to have some more LAP funding spent in the prior year. Just bringing that back forward, adjusting the amount of grant funding from LAP that's available, as well as the town funding to balance that out. That was fee in lieu of streets that we've collected from other developments. Reconciling the Public Works Yard project, again, same idea of just kind of getting the expenditures current versus what we thought we would have spent. And then finally, we're requesting to recognize additional fund balance appropriation to cover these projects. Should be noted that we're asking for the fund balance at this time. Very likely that we'll come back with a future one that will roll that back in place and be replaced with additional revenues that have come in over anticipated levels. Likely sales tax. At this time, we've only received 3 months of sales tax revenue that are attributable to fiscal 26, so it's just too early to really give a commitment on that. But it may be sales tax, it could be any combination of revenues. So with that, happy to answer any questions, but otherwise seeking adoption of the ordinance.
Any questions from the board? All right, do you have a motion?
Madam Mayor, make a motion to adopt ordinance 004-2026, amendment number 2 of the General Government Capital Project Ordinance.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to adopt ordinance 004-2026, amendment number 2 of the General Government Capital Project Ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right, and last one for finance tonight, the award of the purchase contract for the acquisition of the dump truck we talked about a while ago.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I feel like Brian Coates up here tonight. All these items. So, as we discussed in the operating budget that you have now approved, we preemptively started sourcing it, or kind of rehashing our original sourcing. We are going to be piggybacking off of the North Carolina Sheriff's Association bidding process that they underwent and awarded to Velocity Truck Centers. Sheriff's Association is a competitive bidding group, and North Carolina general statutes allows us to acknowledge and use that process without having to go through it. With that said, the cost of the truck is over the formal purchase threshold of $90,000. So with that, statutes do require the board to award the contract. The Sheriff's Association took care of the procurement, but this is the contract side of things. So we are seeking award of contract as well as the manager or a designee to complete the purchase. And just for everyone's awareness, the board does have the authority to delegate future purchases to whomever at whatever. You can have different levels of approvals based on cost or what have you. Staff does intend to provide such a authorization in a future procurement policy update for y'all's consideration for approval. But in the meantime, we will have to seek board approval anytime this is triggered.
Any questions from the board?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to award a purchase contract to Velocity Truck Centers and authorize the town manager or designee to complete the purchase.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to award a purchase contract to Velocity Truck Centers and authorize the town manager or his designee to complete the purchase. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 6D is a discussion to approve a general contractor and authorize the town manager to negotiate and sign a contract for the request for a proposal for construction services for the Buffalo Creek Greenway Phase 1. Mr. Pulaski.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. Surface 678 issued RFP for construction services for the Buffalo Creek Greenway Phase 1. Those were due by November the 20th. As of that time and date, we did receive 4 submissions for those. Surface also handled the documents submittal and the review of the submissions. And as you can see, there were the rankings in order by cost. McQueen Construction was the lowest responsible bidder at $2.565 million. Upon board approval, staff will negotiate construction services and execute the contract. The initial construction schedule will be provided at that time. The bid amount was within the appropriate funding budget, which was funded in the FY26 year. Staff recommends awarding the bid to McQueen Construction for $2,565,000.
Anything from the board?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to award the bid to McQueen Construction in the amount of $2,565,000 and authorize the town manager to negotiate and sign the contract.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to award the bid to McQueen Construction Incorporated in the amount of $2,565,000 and to authorize the town manager to negotiate and sign the construction contract. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Item 6E is the Greenmount Cemetery Master Plan. Mr. Coates.
Yep, good evening, Mayor and board members. So the item before you tonight is the adoption of the Greenmount Cemetery Master Plan. Consultants were here back in September, giving you an update of the process and their recommendations. This was part of a project that planning, public works, and finance staff all worked on, as we all have different responsibilities when it comes to the cemetery. So planning manages the sale and the process and the documentation of all the cemetery and the plots. Public Works has staff that helps maintain it and also a contract. And then finance keeps track of all the finances related to the cemetery. So it really was a group project. And so we'll go over some of the highlights and then I can answer any questions you may have. Adoption of this master plan does complete a management and progress initiative strategic plan goal number 3. The master plan is a result of collaboration between the consulting team, town staff, and historical society, local funeral directors, and others as well. Cemetery plan does include a variety of improvements such as signage. It's probably one of the main things we get out there is people don't know where to go. They don't know where to find their loved ones that have passed. Landscaping, updatings of roads and access, allowing for single purchase grave locations, cremation only lots, updating our fees, decoration policy recommendations, and record keeping. I'll go over a few of the slides from the September presentation for you. So issues and opportunities. Cemetery, when we had meetings, especially with Historical Society, there was a lot of landscaping out there in the past, a lot of trees. Those have all been removed over many decades. You can see those images of issues. So there are a need for signage, there's a need for tree planting, stormwater improvements, potentially paving of the roads, closing some of the roads. Little things like including dog waste stations and kind of updating the cemetery for kind of what you could say is a park-like setting. Updating monument maintenance program, providing for a cremation garden and allowing sales for individual plots. Water flows, if you go out there, you can certainly see it flows from the north to the south towards West Academy Street. The road network, to meet guidelines, there's a lot of roads that have to be maintained. People don't know where to go. The gravel can be hard to walk on, and so there's a variety of issues. Long-term projects from this master plan will be included in town budget or CIP document, depending on the projects. We still have plenty of burial plots for the future. It's anticipated we have another 40 years of burials on site, so this is a long-term cemetery for the town and the community. Some descriptions of what potentially the road improvements could look like throughout the cemetery, areas where we create new lots for cremation, things like that. The current state of the cemetery, if you go out there, there's certainly some growth on some of the graves, and so one of the recommendations is working with community groups on kind of cleaning that up and bringing the cemetery back to kind of a more updated look and cleaning things and remarking things. So I can field any questions that you have. The amendments to our code are in the next agenda item, and also the third item related to this project is the fee schedule, which finance will present. I can field any questions you have on the cemetery master plan, and our consultants created that for us.
Okay. Any questions for Brian about the master plan? Okay.
Madam Mayor, make a motion to adopt the cemetery master plan as presented.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to adopt the Greenmount Cemetery Master Plan as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
Thank you. I will just say, I think for all of planning staff that was involved, this was our first cemetery master plan. We
Yeah.
had all worked on downtown master plans, streetscape master plans, but never a cemetery before. So it was a unique process. It was sitting down with Historical Society and funeral directors was a really interesting conversation. So thank you all.
You're welcome.
You funded
You got
it,
to
so.
do that fun thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you got to smile about things. All right, item 6F is a request to amend the Wendell Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8, regarding cemeteries.
Yep, this item is, we're asking you to look at the proposed amendments. The amendments really clean things up in our ordinance related to the master plan. So there's some updates to one of the big changes, eliminating the grave marker deposit, working on decor at the cemetery, types of monuments permitted, creates some standards for the markers, some basic standards, creating regular maintenance, which when we talk about regular maintenance, how often is the cemetery cleaned and picked up? Right now, it's twice a year by town staff. Throughout the process over the next 4 or 5 months, we will look at like a contract potentially. There's a contract for people mowing and maintaining the cemetery. What would it cost to have them pick up stuff left behind? What if it's town staff and the frequency? So all that kind of stuff would come in a budget amendment, but it gives us some flexibility. It also allows us to sell an individual lot. We get people who, right now the policy is you have to purchase 2. And so some people just want to purchase one. And so the changing of our household structures as well, there's a lot more single-person households than ever before. And so we get a lot of questions on, can I just purchase one lot, one plot, one grave burial, I guess I should say. So I can field any questions you have on that, but the Code of Ordinances this is just cleaning it up and consolidating some things as well. I can field any questions that you do have.
Any questions?
Yeah, one, and I'm sorry if this is really clear if I had the language in front of me, but I remember when we had our presentation on this a while back, we talked about no longer issuing deeds for the lots, but doing it more just through a contract. Is that part of this, or is that part of the plan, or where's that at?
That's actually part of our internal policies, and so when this is adopted, we have the new form, which we will not be doing that deed. That was never really a deed anyway, but we will just clean up and do like a sale of purchase. Yep.
Anything else?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the proposed amendment to Wendell Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8 regarding cemeteries.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to approve the proposed amendment to the Wendell Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8 regarding cemeteries. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Thank you all.
All right, now we'll move to item 6G is our fiscal year 2026 fee schedule ordinance amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just to piggyback off Brian's last couple items, with the adoption of the cemetery plan and the text amendments, need to adjust the fee schedule that was originally adopted as in conjunction with the FY26 budget. Currently, the resident fee is $1,200. That does include 2 burial spaces. The non-resident fee is double that at $2,400, and there is a monument deposit fee, which is refundable, of $600. With now the adoption of the plan, the resident rate will be $900, but that is for 1 space. Non-resident is $1,400. It does create a cremation lot a fee of $600, which again covers one burial, and then the removal of the deposit fee. That's the summary of everything from the plan. So just looking for adoption.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 002-2026, amendment number 1 of the fiscal year 2026 fee schedule ordinance.
I don't have that one marked. Can you restate your motion?
Sure. Motion to adopt ordinance 002-2026, amendment number 1 of the fiscal year 2026 fee schedule ordinance.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Item 6H is the presentation on the Formica integra eastern mound ant in the Wendell
now for
Park.
some exciting things.
We've all been waiting.
Man, look, I'm
this.
so excited. And through this process, Chris is going to vouch for me. I have become an ant expert along with Mark and Stephanie because of this man right here behind us. I've learned more about ants than I ever thought was possible. So with the ongoing issues with the ants at the Wendell Park, I did contact the entomology and plant pathology department at NC State and did get in touch with Dr. Chris back here. He did come out and visit the park, took an evaluation, and then he took all his findings back with him and came back with a proposed treatment plan for the park. And so he's going to kind of discuss what that treatment looks like and what the costs are. I'll turn it over to Dr. Chris.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. Sweet. Madam Mayor and Commissioners, thank you so much for your time. It's a little, I guess, unique presentation you'll get tonight. Maybe not what you typically would have in these kind of meetings, but I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope we can walk away with what I think is a really strong potential for a great partnership. So I'll kind of dive into this. As Jeff said, my name is Dr. Christopher Hayes. I'm an entomologist at NC State University. I'm an urban entomologist, so I work with all the pests on, in, and around the built environment. My typical 9 to 5 involves things like cockroaches, bed bugs, termites, right? Things you don't want to find on your home or in your home. But this is one of those really fun projects where we see, and I'll talk about it in a minute, where we see what is really a beneficial insect in large part in a really unique ecosystem where it is no longer beneficial, but instead is now harmful and is raising concerns and has been for a while. And so kind of going into this, I kind of wanted to give a little bit of background on who we are and kind of why I'm up here speaking to you. I told you who I am and where I'm at NC State, but we run a training facility and a structural pest control lab at the university. And so my primary group that I'm typically working with and serving is the pest management industry of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Second to that, just below that, but not in any less importance, is the people of North Carolina, and in this case, the people of Wendell. And so we have a really thriving community and group at NC State, and we're really driven to pursue things like this where we can have real-time impact. That's what we want to do. We can make people's lives better and control these things that people don't want to see in their home or on their legs, in the case of the park I'll talk about in a minute. But we also want to help build an appreciation for them. We want to embody and kind of embrace these insects that live alongside us, not to kill them all, right? My background is actually in pest management. I used to work for a company here in North Carolina, but actually to develop an appreciation and so that they can have their place and we can have ours, right? And so what's the current problem that we're facing? Well, there's ants. There's a lot of them, right? And so Reagan, my lab manager, is here with me tonight. When Jeff called us and we came out, I didn't really know what awaited us. He said, hey, there's a lot of ants. I'm going to tell you there's a lot of them. You're not going to believe how many there are, but there's a lot of them. And so we showed up, and sure enough, there's a lot of them. And so get out of the van, and immediately they're up my legs. They're crawling up my legs, which is not common when you deal with ant infestations, at least what we're typically used to. And so we spent a few hours wandering the property, and for those of you who can see these images and in the audience, what you'll see here, I'll kind of direct with the laser pointer, but this is a mound of the Formica integra red field ant here, butted up against this log. This is probably 12 to 14 inches in height. It's a little hard to tell from this angle. On this right picture, this is a mound, this is a mound, and this is a mound on this tree. And there are mounds back here in this tree line as well. So this area just across the road here is infested with these ants. Now, what are they? So we said they're Formica integra, they're the red field ant. So this is an ant, they're non-stinging. So if any of you have been out there and had them on you and have felt pain, what they do is they bite and then they curl their abdomen around and they spray you with acid. So in the ant world, you kind of have two groups, ones that sting and ones that spray acid. I don't know which is my favorite. They both kind of stink in a lot of ways, but they're there. Now, in general, this is a good ant species to have, right? So one thing to think about, if we think about the park in particular, the playground area has some fire ants. All right, those are an invasive species from South America. They sting, they're terrible, we don't want them. We don't want them at all. Eradication is great because they're invasive, we don't want them here. When we think about native ants, like the red field ant, we don't want to eliminate them because they do play an essential role in the ecosystem. And so the goal of the kind of research proposal we're going to talk about here in a second is not to eliminate them, but to hopefully, we'll see, get them to a point where it's acceptable, where we can coexist with them, people can appreciate them in your community, recognize that you have a really unique ecosystem here without kind of impacting their enjoyment of the park or without being bitten or sprayed, right? So the goal is really to live in harmony with nature. Now, one of the things I want to highlight here, and you'll see why in a second, is that these ants are really big sugar feeders. So they're driven by sugar, a lot like us. We like sugar, we like protein. These ants specifically like sugar. And one of the unique ways they get it, which you'll see in this picture on the bottom here, if you can tell, it's a little small, but those are aphids. So field ants regularly will farm aphids on trees and on plants. They will actually protect them. And they will kind of stroke them with their antenna and cause them to defecate, which sounds disgusting, but honey or aphid poop is called honeydew. And so if you've ever, like me, you grew up in the South and you ever went to certain flowers, honeysuckle, and you were able to pull that little drop of nectar out of there and taste it, and it was really sweet, the ants like that. And these aphids produce it from sap taken from trees, from the liquid inside of trees. And so these ants are smart, not as smart as us, but they're smart, right? And so what we found here, spending a few hours out there with Jeff, is that this is a really fascinating ecosystem, okay? In the research world, we would call this just a data mine, that there is an opportunity for research and collaboration here in a really major way. And why I'm here tonight is because I want to fulfill the mission of NC State, partnering as a land-grant institution, partnering with our communities, our towns, our cities, to better the lives of people in North Carolina by pursuing impactful research. And I think this park just across the road represents a huge opportunity to do that. And I'm talking about one project tonight that we're hoping you guys would see value in and choose to fund and help support. But that is by no means the only thing I think we can do in this park, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute as well. Some of it might be news to you that has just come up this past week, which is pretty cool. That's how research works. Okay, so when we think about pest management, I'm gonna give you a crash course here. When we think about area-wide type of control, there's kind of two routes when you think of ants or when most people think of pest control. You guys have all seen some type of pest control truck driving down the road with a giant tank on the back. Most often those tanks are used for termite treatments, which are great, work really well. But in the case of what we're dealing with here, one could advocate that you could go through and you could hose down the trails. You could apply a surface spray, an insecticide chemical, or natural product, doesn't matter, it could be an essential oil. But you could surface spray the area to kill the ants. Now, I'll tell you the truth, it will kill some ants. It absolutely will. Ants are difficult, right? So when you apply product in this manner, a few of the risks that come associated with that, okay, especially if we think about a park and we think about the goal being mitigation of these ants. The first is drift. That liquid will spread, it will drift, particulates will go through the air, land on leaves. It doesn't just land where you put it, if that makes sense, okay? Even if it doesn't go very far, it still will go somewhere, right? A lot of these liquids are harmful to beneficials. You will see, and this is a whole sermon that I could go on, you will see messaging around green, botanical, and I'm pro-green, I'm pro-synthetic. We can talk about either or, but all of them will kill honeybees. All of them will kill bumblebees. Right? When you apply a liquid insecticide that then dries and leaves a residual on a surface, any insect or arthropod that is sensitive to that, when I say arthropod, I mean things like spiders. Spiders give me the heebie-jeebies, but they're actually pretty good to have in your parks. They help with a lot of good things. Anything that touches them is going to die, right? So liquids and residuals are also really short-term. All right, if you apply on a Friday and you have a massive storm on a Saturday, it's going to wash a lot of that product away. All right, especially if you're in the heat of the summer, and everyone knows the hot, humid summers we have in North Carolina, those products are not going to last very long, right? And then there are barriers to the handoff. And what I mean by that is if you have a really successful, let's say you have a really successful 6-month liquid programming, you now need really high-tech equipment to do that yourselves, or you're going to have to continue to contract it out. All right, so there's some barriers there. All right, there's a lot of restrictions around liquid chemical mixing, risk, we teach courses on it, okay? It's a lot of stuff. What we are proposing in this research project is vastly different, but we think it has the potential to be really impactful. And I say think because science, we have to form hypotheses and then we test them. But what we're proposing is a large-scale bait deployment for the attempted control of these ants as a project. Now, what do I mean when I say that? I actually have one of the bait stations in my backpack. There's no chemical in it, no insecticide, but guys can pass it around. I'll get it and show you so you can see what it looks like. And I can, actually, Reagan, would you grab it out of the bigger, thank you. Reagan, she's phenomenal. While she's grabbing that, so bait applications have several really critical strengths here. The biggest one is that it's a targeted application, all right? So when we go out and we're saying, hey, we're here to control these ants, we want to target the ants. We don't want to target the ants and the butterflies if we can avoid it, right? And so bait targeting allows us to really focus in on that specific pest we're trying to control, all right? There's a really low chance of off-target effects. Typically, unless someone moves it, bait will stay where you put it if you put it correctly, all right? The third piece is it's a long-term solution. And what I mean by that is if you take a colony of 1,000 ants and you spray a liquid insecticide and you kill 999 of those ants, but you don't kill the queen, they can recover. And the queen doesn't come out onto the surface. So the queen is not going to encounter that liquid insecticide or that liquid residue. But when you feed them a bait, does anyone in here besides Jeff and Mark, and I think Sarah, I believe, as well, know how ants share food? This is your fun little insect fact of the day. Okay, so workers cannot eat solid food, they just eat liquid. And so what they'll do is they'll suck up liquid in their mouth and they'll carry it to another worker and then they'll vomit it up and the other worker will consume it. There are a couple other ways that are a little more graphic I won't talk about here, but that's the primary way. And so that's how bait works. These workers consume that bait, they then carry it back to the nest. You don't have to look for it. You don't have to find the queen. They will go and poison their own queen without knowing it, and you'll wipe out the colony. And so that is why bait works really, really well for these scale of infestations. We think, that's what we're testing here, but it works really well in general for ant colony elimination. And then it's an easy handoff. These stations are durable, they're cheap, and then the only thing that would need to be handed off, Jeff already has someone who works with him who is able to apply product, and they would just then need to know the product we buy it, and then fill up these bait stations as necessary. There's no specialized equipment, just a 1-gallon jug and a strong back who's willing to carry it out or ride in a cart around. And so let's get into a few of the specifics here. So with this project, what we're proposing, and I'm here presenting, but there is a researcher at NC State who I'm also collaborating with, a colleague, Dr. Kelly Oaten. She's a forest entomologist. And so again, this is a really fascinating ecosystem with a lot of potential questions here. But this one we're wanting to answer specifically is, can we control this ecologically dominant ant species that has ballooned in a really massive way using an innovative baiting method that's not been used in this type of ecosystem before. We don't really have evidence of this in the literature. There's evidence of control, but this is a really unique situation, at minimum in the southeastern United, at very minimum in North Carolina, minimum that I'm aware of in the southeastern United States, very potentially in the majority of the United States. There's probably somewhere that's similar, but very, very kind of unique situation here that we really want to investigate. So what we propose is this kind of 7-month baiting monitoring management approach. And we're talking 1 year, but it could potentially roll into 2 or 3 years, depending on what the data shows, data collection, and what we see in terms of the project. But we're looking at this right now in kind of a 1-year focus here. So we would perform initial density measurements. And what I mean by that is we take cups out in the ground, we put a liquid inside of them, and we collect ants in a pitfall. We then count those ants. Those cups are going to be full in March. I'm confident of that. But the goal would be that in March of 2027, they'd be less full. And if we see that they're less full, then we would present that to you and we'd say, hey, let's go to 2028. And then they would be less full, right? That would be the goal. It's not going to be overnight, but the goal is that we would see a reduction in that density, that abundance of these ants to a reasonable ecological level, okay? Throughout this study, we would come out every week, filling those monitoring stations, checking them, kind of writing down the amount of bait consumed, and then periodically perform these density measurements with additional pitfall traps. Ultimately, our goal is to collect as much data as possible. The reality is we don't always in science know the data that we need to collect. And so while we might have a grid for the data we're going to collect for this specific project, there are many other projects I think that could blossom out of a research partnership between my program at NC State and the town of Wendell here at this park. 2 great examples. One is the kind of diversity of insect and arthropod life in this forest ecosystem that is now dominated by this type of ant. We know this ant has very specific insect grooming, farming behaviors. How has that impacted the forest ecosystem, which is where my forest entomology colleague comes in. She brings that wealth of knowledge there. Another great example of a research project that just came up this week is we have one of the world's leading beetle taxonomists. If you want to talk about nerdy, it means quite frankly, he looks at beetle genitalia and then plots them on a map. It's really fascinating. He's really good at what he does. But there are really unique species of beetle that are only found in this species of ant. And he wants to come out with us and collect some of those beetles, try to find them, see what they look like in an ecosystem that's this overrun with these ants, right? Entomologists are nerds, guys. You got to bear with us. We're nerdy. So there's a lot of fascinating stuff that I think we could dive into together in this partnership, all right? So one of the great examples that I shared with Jeff, which I think he thought was really cool, I thought it was fun, kind of the down and dirty way of testing something. So when we came out and looked at these ants initially, the question that was kind of on my mind is, are these ants from the same colony that has become a super colony, because we do see that behavior in ants, or are they different colonies, right? So do they view each other as sisters, or do they view each other as competitors? And it's a little brutal, but we took a test tube and we threw some ants from different parts of the park in there and they killed each other. So what that tells us is they don't view each other as sisters. They view each other as competitors, right? And so it's kind of this immediate down and dirty science, but what it tells us is this is a competitive, active ecosystem that could really generate a lot of really fascinating data and research questions. And so looking forward, we can, the budget was presented, we can talk more about the numbers here too. There's been a lot of numbers tonight, but kind of breaking it down, there's a personnel cost in part for lab manager and a research specialist to work on this project, but also to support a graduate student. The way that I break it down is as an employee at NC State, my salary is taxpayer funded already, but my team is not. I have to generate funds. Typically that is done through pursuing grant funding through things like NIH, NSF, USDA, Forestry Service, those type of places. I am much more grassroots, North Carolina born and bred, and I'm an extension professional, so I prefer to be out in the field. And so I would love to pursue some of that funding from places like the town of Wendell to support projects that I think are really impactful. Then there is your standard kind of materials and supplies. And so the majority of that cost is in that ant bait. So that's about $7,000 a year is what it's looking like. It's pretty cheap. I guess for me as a researcher where we count pennies, it feels like a lot of money, but right on a town budget, that is not that much. But so there's miscellaneous supplies there. I'm happy to talk about those more in depth if people have questions. But I do want to kind of come back to this main point. I don't want to take too much longer here. But I think it represents a really strong potential for partnership here. So I've already been in conversations with our head of kind of marketing and collaboration at NC State. And we're really open to advertising this, to promoting it, to having a website, to doing all this. There are some restrictions from NC State side of, things like you have to use the brand correctly, we have to use the right logo, stuff like that, that is not my wheelhouse, but is theirs, and there's people we can connect with. But from the NC State side of things, this is really fulfilling that mission. Right. Now, in terms of the practical benefits of what you guys would get out of it, because I recognize there is that question, what do we get as the ROI for what we're putting in? So the first one is hopefully a reduction in the population of ants in the park. I can't promise it's going to work. I have a strong hypothesis that it is, but if it doesn't, we will fail forward. We will learn more, and it would drive a new research question. Okay, why didn't this baiting scheme work? What can we replace it with? What innovative tools can we come up with? There's some things we're playing around with other pest ant species, for example, with 3D printing, specified stations to try to control them. So would that be something we could loop in here as an example? Second would be public use and enjoyment of the park. I have a toddler, and my wife and I are due for our next baby in 2 weeks. And so we would love to see kids like ours and other kids in this community enjoy the park, get to play more. And so even disc golfers, I have a friend who's a disc golfer, be able to use that section of the park really well. I think there's a lot of opportunities I mentioned for news and publicity. This is a really awesome opportunity for partnership, I believe. And then from my side, what do I benefit? But it also benefits you guys is publication is the currency of academia. And so there is at minimum on this project alone 1 to 2 publications, and then the publications that are out there, potential for other collaborative projects moving forward. And so these are projects that would reference Wendell, that would thank the board, thank the mayor, that would kind of give all of this recognition back to this site, this location. And quite frankly, entomologists, as Reagan can attest, are nerds, and it would certainly probably draw some entomologists in, right? That was not an insult, it was a compliment. Yeah, that's right. And so then the last piece I'll mention here, so we are big on outreach. We love connecting, especially kids, getting kids involved with citizen science, right? And so one of the things that we would hope to do in partnership, and here with Jeff, and talked with Mark as well, is we would actually love to collect one of the colonies from the woods and get it set up in a terrarium for kids to learn and learn about and look at. And I think there's a community center or somewhere potentially, but they're essentially help to develop training or teaching materials, education materials for kids to learn about these ants. That they're here. We don't want to eliminate them. The goal would be 3-4 years from now that this baiting scheme would scale down significantly. There would be a set number of stations that we know that so long as Jeff and his team are filling them up 3, 4, 5 times a year, that the population remains at a set level, that we would be able to maintain that level. And then what I'll end with here is it's really important, I think, to say what are the risks as well. I know we want to be risk adverse, and so first one I already mentioned, it may not work. The second one, which I think is always the biggest, is insecticide exposure. The product we're going to be using is a borate or a boric acid type bait. It is specifically formulated to taste like honeydew to ants, which is why we're using it, because field ants consume honeydew. The active ingredient in the bait is a boric acid, and it is less toxic to humans than vitamin A. So it's very, very non-toxic, and the concentration of it in the bait we're going to be using is 1%. And so you would have to drink, even a child would have to drink several gallons of this product to have any negative effects, and the negative effects would be incredibly mild, as it is a boric acid-based bait. Can I have the station real quick? And then in terms of when you use an insecticide or for example, rodenticide is a great example, right? How many of you have ever gone around and seen those giant black boxes outside of buildings? Rodenticide needs to be secured safely. All bait should be secured safely, so these are the stations we'd be using. I'll pass it around, but they're really rigid plastic, really hard for a dog to get a hold of and chew. They do screw down into the ground quite far, so they'll become pretty secure. So essentially what we're proposing is to place these stations at regular intervals along the walking trails throughout the woods, slightly off the trail, and marked with flags so that they're not readily apparent to passersby, but we can easily find them. And then we'll place stations around the buildings as well at tighter intervals. I wanted to include a map, but we're in the process of developing a map, I think, to really map that out and show exactly where those would be. But they're hard to get open. The way you open them is you have to kind of depress these 2 tabs, and then you can slide it up. And so even my son's hand is not big enough as a 3-year-old to do that effectively alone. And so I'll pass this around. You're welcome to look at it. But then the third piece is, and again, this is an opportunity for more research, is the potential for an ecological vacuum. So we don't know what's going to happen in the insect ecosystem when we take out a bunch of these ants. We have no idea. There is a reality that the fire ants could cross the road, and now there's more fire ants. It could hopefully be a reality that everything balances out. So when we were out here with Jeff a few months ago, we found, I think, 2 or 3 black field ants, a single black carpenter ant, and then 3 or 4 Asian needle ants, which is another invasive ant species. Everything else was red field ant. So they had totally nuked everything else. We don't know what the ecosystem will do. But again, it's a really cool research project. Does this ecosystem balance itself out? Because it is a really unique system we have here. And so with that, I am happy to take questions. I'll pass this up here if you guys want to see it and put your hands on it. Again, there's no insecticide or anything that's ever been in this or on it. It's brand new. But this is a great example of what you will see if you go out there today. Just evidence of how intense this infestation is. So these field ants dig gorges through the soil, and they use these as protected travel routes. And I've never seen them to this extent throughout any natural space. So you guys really do have a really cool place here. And I think there's a lot of opportunity. So, and I'm happy to take any questions.
I think you just said we're the ant capital of the USA. Is that
You have
what you
made
said?
us feel so special.
Hey, I'm glad. I was
And
excited.
This is the best presentation we've had in a long time. No offense to town staff, but it was great.
They're not all like this?
I appreciate it. I
Small
appreciate
town, big charm, ant capital of America.
That was great. It's very
it. There it is.
ex-
You need to just see a statue.
Yeah, we might look. This fits into a lot of things.
We are the fastest growing town right now.
Yeah.
That's right. There you go. That's right. For
Ants
ants and
and
people.
people.
That's right. That's right.
As thorough as that presentation was, I do have just
No,
like
please.
An
Any,
question.
I'm always happy.
And
Yep.
you've made it so clear that those stations are tamper resistant. What about like something removing it?
Sure.
I understand it can't get in, but like what is the likelihood and how would that set something back if
Sure.
wildlife or kids or same thing, you know?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we'll inspect those stations every week, and
Okay.
if we feel that they have become loose or unseated in any way, we would reinstall them and replace them with new stations.
Okay.
That being said, people are people, and we can't do anything to 100% guarantee that a person wouldn't see that and decide to just take it. The best thing that we can do is 2 things. Well, 3 things, I think. One is from the NC State side and the town of Wendell side, communicate really clearly, both electronically and even with signage at the park. Hey, there's an ongoing research project. If you see this, and we can put a picture of it, do not tamper with it. It does contain an insecticide, but this is why that insecticide is really safe. Okay, so conveying that information, I think, up front. The second thing is accurate and really clear labeling of the stations. So it doesn't have the label on there yet, but we'll design it. And so what will be on there is the caution word, or the signal word, excuse me, for that insecticide, which is caution, which is one of the lowest, if not the lowest, kind of toxicity word. The active ingredient and % active ingredient, and it will also have contact information for me. So it probably won't have my phone number. You guys have my phone numbers. I do have a work cell, don't worry. So the number up there is my work mobile, not my personal mobile. But you guys will have that information, but it will have my email address. And then ideally also a QR code or something, maybe to a website that would be developed telling more information about the project that's going on. And maybe even ways that we can engage the public. And then the third thing is making sure that whatever product we're using is the safest product that we can use for this type of work. And so using this, the bait sounds scary. I don't think I put the name up here. Maybe I did. Yeah, it's called liquid ant killing bait. So they made it sound really scary, but it really is not very scary. It's actually a really, really safe insecticide to use.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Great questions.
Anything else? Anything?
Yeah, there are times when I'm really, really proud to be a member of the Wolf Pack, and this is
Let's
one
go,
of them.
baby. Go Pack.
I had an entomology TA in a biology class, and y'all are all the same. It's
We are.
bizarre.
Look,
Fascinating.
cut from the same
people,
cloth.
But this is the point of a land grant institution, and really appreciate y'all's your enthusiasm clearly, but the partnership. I'm really excited. When I first joined this board and before that, I heard that we had a special kind of ant that nobody could do anything about, and it's a lost cause. The ants just have the park, and we will do it. So I'm excited to kind of go through the learning process. But I think all of it does come. Maybe this is something that you'll learn more about in the months and years to come. But do you have like any theory, or you've talked about we have this really unique or special ecosystem? why? Is there any
Yeah.
why in your mind?
It's a great question. So the scientific answer is I don't know. We don't know yet, but we're going to collect data. That's the goal. I will say that when you have kind of these watershed areas, these kind of periodic flood zones, you have a lot of moisture, a lot of potential food, a lot of foliage, especially when you have a lot of potential plant feeding, things like aphids, you kind of make this perfect storm where there's this endless supply of water and food, which, just like with humans, for thousands of years, a lack of food and water is what killed a lot of people, right, and disease. And what I'm wondering, and this is kind of my thought I've had, is we actually have 10 or 12 different species of ants in colony in our lab at NC State. And so we have queens, and they produce, and we watch this behavior over time. And what we see is in these really large colonies, they're incredibly efficient. And so when an ant dies, they eat it. They don't let it go to waste. And so there is a capacity at which I think they feed themselves. There are so many workers dying that they're able to then feed off of that and sustain the colony. And so I think that's probably part of it. But the goal is to collect that data, to try and figure out, hey, and the reality is we may even look at doing, one of the things that my hope is for this is that there are additional projects we come up with, and my hope is that one or two of them, maybe even three, would be funded by larger federal organizations. And one of the questions we have, and that I have, is to look at the genetic diversity of these ants. So even though in a rough, dirty test tube they kill each other, are they cousins? Are they kind of sister colonies
We
that
have
have
that
split
sort of
off?
thing in Wendell, where cousins do some fighting. Sometimes
Look,
right
I
here
have
in
no.
this room. So.
Look, I'm from Wilkes County, so trust me, I know. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of opportunity to try and dig into why this has happened in this isolated area. But it's interesting because when I was out here with Jeff, and we'll see if it remains true this year, I'm sure it will, they didn't cross the road to where the fire ants were. So there is this no man's land where they don't seem to succeed. And it seems like the parking lot area is kind of that outer bounds for now, for whatever reason. And in fact, when we found the black field ant and the carpenter ant, it was in the parking lot. The woods were entirely dominated by this species of ant, except for the Asian needle ant, which is very new. But yeah, we'll hopefully figure it out.
Two more quick ones. Is this time and sort of working on the mound ants an appropriate time, or something that y'all will be talking about? Is something that you'll be talking about eradication, or an attempt to eradicate the fire ants at the same time? And not that would be within the scope of this research necessarily, but like we won't.
Sure, that's a great question.
pests in the
So,
park.
yeah, so I would say, so this is where my job kind of diverges. All right, so I have, we call it wow, my brain is blanking, but a split in an effort. Where is our effort as academics? I have a majority extension appointment and then a research appointment. The field ant is a research project. When I take the research hat off and I put on, so if you were a homeowner and you said, hey, I have field ants in my yard, I wouldn't conduct a research project. I'd say, hey, you need to contract with pest management. They can handle it for you. This is a very unique ecosystem and setting where pest management is not the solution, where we need to research an innovative way to try and resolve this and try to better understand the system, which is why I've put on the research hat. My extension hat would be, while I'm out there, let's look at the fire ant situation. My recommendation would be to contract with a pest control company at this stage, unless there's some ecological vacuum that happens that then would funnel it back into the research side, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's a unique kind of taking on and off of hats, because the research side of things has to be funded. The extension side is not funded. The extension side is, okay, we're doing extension, we're helping you kind of advise the best way to control your pest situation. And so for the fire ants, I would say pest management.
Well, and this is sort of just a note then mostly for staff, but I think as we go through this process, conscious of the academic portion of it, and there's so much exciting stuff on that front.
Yeah.
If it's better for us just to go ahead and knock out fire ants, and maybe at the risk of losing the opportunity to learn how quickly they would autonomously respond to the vacuum, then maybe that's a good time to go ahead and do that now. But just y'all figure that out. Don't have the answer.
I'm all for killing fire ants at any time, any given time.
One last.
Don't we? We work on the fire ants constantly.
Absolutely, and it is just they're an invasive ant,
Yeah.
and they're incredibly successful,
Yeah.
and they're incredibly resilient. So they're hard to get rid of. Even if you eliminate every mound from the park this year, they'd be back next year.
Okay. And then last thing, you've talked about the size and it's big. Is there a kind of quantification, not that it would really matter, and I don't have any reference point, but do you have like a number that would be an interesting fact for us to have of like there are probably X
number of
ants, or like, is there like a way to quantify the size so that you understand this to be
that
so
is
far?
the goal with our March density measurement. So what we'll do is we'll take part of the natural forest system and part of the field systems, and we'll kind of coordinate off in sections. We'll section it out, and we'll do those pitfall traps, and then we'll take that number and extrapolate it to the larger, 125 acres or so? Yeah. So yes, I'll get you a very rough estimate.
Excited to
but it's a
hear.
lot. It's a lot.
A lot.
A lot.
Dr. Hayes.
For updates.
Yeah.
Dr. Hayes, to the mayor's
sir.
point of updates, before you leave, I'm going to give you Commissioner Eatman's personal cell phone number.
Please.
We want weekly updates.
Okay, I'll give you my business cards. I have business cards if you'd like them as well, so you guys can reach out. But yeah, we would love this partnership, and yeah, I think it's a really cool opportunity. I appreciate your time.
I do have a couple questions.
Yeah, please.
And a point, but, and we didn't talk about a map. We'll do that later, but we do get a lot of, I guess, comments about the ants on the disc golf course.
Sure.
And so you mentioned earlier too about parks.
Yep.
Let's talk about where these are specifically,
Yeah.
like disc golf course, not necessarily in the park.
Yeah. When you say these, do you mean the stations, or do you mean the ants?
The ants in general?
Yes.
Because I don't want it to sound like that, and I know when we say park, it's a large area.
Sure.
Versus playground.
Sure.
We talk about fire ants.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
these ants,
So what I can say today, based on what we saw when we were out with Jeff, I think the end of the summer last year, they were, the layout of the space, there's the playground, there's the road, there's the road, the building with the gymnasium, the parking lot in the back, and then some sports fields and the playgrounds on the right, if you're coming in on the right side. We didn't see any on the right side of the road. Everything on the left side of the road was inundated, into the parking lot on the back side where the picnic tables are. So everything from essentially the picnic table, road, parking lot, front of the building, all the way to the really old, not old, but you have nice wooden deck towards the water's edge in the back. They were everywhere. So that is kind of their territory. So it's you could just throw a pin. And so then in terms of, to your point, playgrounds, fields, where people are, disc golf course overrun, the walking trails overrun, and that image of the gorges I showed you was right along the edge of what I assume is a football field or a baseball field, really big open field. Yeah, a multi-purpose field. So anyone sitting there watching sports, they're going to be on them. There's trees kind of in that area, and they're everywhere.
Yeah, I say that just so people that are watching understand.
Yes.
We have our T-ball fields where the
Yes.
pickleball courts are now on
Okay.
that side. We have multi-purpose field,
Yeah.
disc golf course.
Yeah.
That side is problematic.
Yes. Yeah. That's great.
And second thing, I've already, for the second time tonight, I'm a math guy. I don't know why I need to clarify that. Not a big science guy.
That's okay.
I do judge the annual science fair at the elementary school.
Oh, excellent.
Shout out Wendell Elementary. Is it possible that one of the benefits, and I'm just looking ahead, monetarily, would it be possible that our $22,000 would be seed money, for lack of a better term, for future research? If it creates this hubbub about Wendell and what we have going on, that kind of we step out of it from there and everybody else wants to come be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely there is. So this funding this year and any years future on this project is absolutely generating data that would become its standalone publication, but then would become kind of foundational data, seed data into future grant applications. So we're already working, kind of considering, all right, where would this type of ecological study fall best under? Would it fall well under USDA because it's forestry related, because it's in a forest ecosystem? Or would it fall better under something like NSF, the National Science Foundation, because we're trying to get into some fundamental ecological principles and we're using this as a model system. So we're already in those conversations around kind of where this would go. And absolutely. And I think there's two things there. I think there's there's a path forward where the town of Wendell supports this seed project, and we're incredibly grateful, and it develops research collaboration, and there's outside funding that comes in, and there's independent projects in partnership with Wendell. But then I think there's also a road forward, and they don't have to be mutually exclusive, where we identify really interesting future research in the same vein, in the same ecosystem, that you guys take an interest to. And you say, hey, actually, we want to put some money toward that as well, because we would like to be the ones to fund it, as opposed to having a third party fund it and then partnership. So open to all of that.
I know we have a problem and we need to solve it.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here, and I'm always excited when ECU folks and NC State folks
That's right.
do great things.
That's
together.
right.
So,
Absolutely.
thank you.
I would also let the board know that we do have an ongoing cost to pest control in the park. We bring out and just kind of nuke areas before big events and activities. As was reported tonight, it clears them out for a very short period of time, but they just come right back up out of the ground. So to your point, we'll be shifting potentially some of the funding from one area over to this. It doesn't necessarily alleviate our pest control expenses in other areas of the park and other facilities and infrastructure that will continue having ongoing costs.
But it could help us to find more efficient ways and
I think the opportunity is in
nice ways to do that, right?
Yes, it's an and statement.
Yeah.
It's a value add to do something in a more, to his points earlier, ecological manner. It allows for a collaborative approach with NC State. So if you think of a lot of the state educational forests and studies that are done there, a couple of Wendell's parks now and in the future will be more nature-based. It allows for some collaboration with our partners, because very few places in the world have an NC State.
Right?
Mayor, one more point, and I think that Commissioner Deloach hit the nail on the head. I know if you're watching at home and you see us joke around, we've been here a long time, not a long time, we've done a long strategic retreat 2 days ago, so we have a very good working relationship at this point. But my point of that is, what Commissioner Deloach brought up is the fiduciary responsibility, that we're not necessarily just funding an ant study. What we're doing is solving a problem, because we're going to spend millions of dollars, let me say it one more time, millions of dollars on an athletic field complex. We sure want to be able to use it. And I know Director Pulaski wants to use it, and the people at Wendell want to use it. And I get phone calls, and the mayor does, and we all do, about we can't enjoy the park that we currently have because of the gosh darn ants.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to the town manager's point, we can spray every day, and again, that's bad money after bad money.
Yeah,
right. So while we're not being flippant,
Yeah.
it is somewhat funny that we are the ant capital of the world.
Yeah.
we want you to research it and to Commissioner Benson's point, solve the problem
Yeah.
in a friendly way as
Yeah.
best we can. But at the end of the day, what we want to do is make sure the people of Wendell, for the cost of $1 per resident, can enjoy the multi-million-dollar field complex and facilities we're going to put on in this area. That's the primary goal.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the hope. That's what we're shooting for.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You know, when I saw this on the agenda, I did not anticipate
Oh,
that this
there
would
it
be the
was.
most exciting part of the evening. I think I really only have, well, one thing I did want to say is that it's really cool also that not only will it be of benefit to future park users, but that we're going to be making potentially scientific history here
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
Wendell, which to me is really cool. I also love that there's potential collaboration with schools, that kids will get to learn from this. I was going to ask about that before you had that in the slide. And then my only real question is how, I assume this is based on existing studies about this species, but how will you know when there's a reasonable population?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're still trying to do some data mining to figure out what is in the body of literature about a healthy population. This is one of the reasons I'm also bringing in my forest entomology colleague. She has a much stronger understanding of what makes a forest ecosystem healthy than I do in terms of the diversity and things like that, right? My wheelhouse primarily is structural. This just happens to be a structural ant that has exploded in a forest ecosystem. And so we're meshing our expertise together on this project. We will figure out that number. Part of that is certainly going to be dependent on the ecosystem that we're looking at. Part of it is also going to be the human factor, right? When are people comfortable? When are people able to enjoy those fields? And you stop getting those calls, or you get much fewer of those calls. And so even if we look at the woods and we say, well, it still feels like there's a lot of ants, but if we see over the course of 6-8 months that those calls are gone, they've dropped significantly, we're not seeing the same pressure on people enjoying the park as we had been seeing, I would say that's a marker of success. And the ecosystem, if there's still any wobbling in there, it will sort itself out so long as we continue to play an active role in really stewarding it, is the way I'll say it.
Okay. I think the only other question I have is the aphid produced honeydew their only source of nutrients, or are they attracted to any other sugars?
Yeah, it's a great question. So they will eat a lot of things. They'll eat they'll eat soda that's dropped on the ground, right? Ants will eat pretty much any sugar food source. What's unique about this, right? So I'll give an example. I was with a pest control company a few months ago, and there was a red field ant infestation on a property. It was a barren property adjoining a soybean field, and they were getting their water from the pool. And then they were getting their food from the back patio where the homeowners were eating. So ants are incredibly resource savvy, and they will find food wherever they can. In a public park, you certainly don't want to restrict, you can't come have a picnic here on a Saturday, right? Right, people listening and you guys as well should know that even if we do this project and we see immense numbers fall, people are still going to see ants, right? Ants are part of our ecosystem. They're good to have around, and an occasional ant crawling on your leg or crawling across your blanket as you have a picnic is actually a good thing. That means we have a healthy earth, a healthy area you're in. But the goal is that we would be able to severely reduce those numbers and kind of limit whatever they're feeding on if we can better understand what they're feeding on, right? A great example, too, of that's a really big buzzword right now is the spotted lanternfly, right? Spotted lanternfly is moving. It's eventually going to be here kind of throughout the state. It already is in North Carolina. But it's funny, one of the things that we're actually seeing as a benefit of the spotted lanternfly in some situations is they produce a lot of honeydew. And so we actually see pollinators are being really benefited by this invasive pest because they're eating more honeydew. Now, it taints the honey, and there's a whole stuff there, but we have to figure out what they're feeding on in this ecosystem is my point. That even though we typically see them feed on aphids, it could be something else that's really blooming and kind of thriving in this forested system that's providing a food source for them. Yeah, thanks for the question.
Any other questions? We're very excited. You notice we didn't ask any questions.
I'm thrilled to hear that. I'm thrilled to hear that.
Okay, so we need a motion to enter an agreement for treatment and research.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to authorize the town manager to enter an agreement for treatment and research with our friends at NC State University.
All right, so we have a motion to authorize the town manager to enter an agreement for treatment and research with the great people at NC State. Go Pack, I went to NC State as well. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
I just want to point out how excited I was when I got up here, and now y'all understand where I was up here, because we've
You
learned
did
all
good,
about
Jeff.
this.
Awesome.
He is the jewel in the crown.
Thank you,
Jeff,
guys.
she just quoted Jewel again.
He is.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank
I
you
appreciate
very
it.
much. All right, let's move real quickly into our commissioners' reports, and we'll start at this end with Commissioner Deloach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Real quick, I had a board treat this weekend. You'll probably hear mention of it a couple more times, but just want to thank town staff. Had an opportunity to spend time with the board, meet the new members, learn more about them, and got a lot of cool things on the horizon. So excited to get going. Happy New Year, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Benson.
Yeah, just to echo what Commissioner Deloach said, awesome first board retreat, and I really do appreciate all the work that town staff put into cultivating a very interesting and open-minded experience. So with that, other than I implore the community to continue to love each other and appreciate each other for all of our differences and all of the things that make us so great. Yeah, that's it.
Commissioner Eman.
I always feel like in meetings like this one where we cover a lot of ground, but it's not the type of ground that always fills the room that, like, we should acknowledge how much important, really great stuff. So, I mean, great meeting on Saturday. Ton of work went into everything that we've talked about tonight, even, and maybe especially, the things that we didn't really talk about for very long beyond hearing staff's pitch, because we have a lot of trust in what y'all do. We know the amount of, you've answered lots of our questions before we got to this point. So I don't know if I feel like I need to apologize or explain a little bit more, but so excited about agendas like today's and just appreciative of all the work and excited for all the good stuff we've got going on in town. This is a long list of really, really important things that we've talked about in the last 2 hours.
Commissioner Honeycutt?
Hate speech is unacceptable and is not reflective of the town, the board. I think I'll leave it at that.
Commissioner Ingalls?
I want to echo what everyone else said about the retreat, and also what Commissioner Eatman said about the great work that the staff always do to get us to the point where we're making good decisions for the town. And I'm only just beginning to appreciate that. I definitely learned on Saturday a lot more about Wendell, but also about myself. To give citizens a little peek into one aspect of that meeting, we did some core value exercises and personality exploration that I think we all left a little bit more insightful about not only our fellow board members, but also ourselves. And I think that will only benefit us as we go forward. And then I want to also echo Commissioner Honeycutt. I don't know that necessarily everyone knows what he was talking about, but if you're a denizen of social media, you probably did see this morning, or if you happen to be driving around during the daytime in the periphery of downtown, the unfortunate graffiti that was left at some point yesterday on a few locations of buildings downtown, and we have been told that a thorough investigation has been undertaken by our wonderful police force, and they are doing everything they can to hopefully catch whoever did that, and it definitely does not reflect who we are, whether it was someone from Wendell or someone who came in from out of town, and certainly hope we don't see any more of that. But it doesn't sit well with, I don't think, any of us up here, and we're very much dismayed. And I think that's it.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna, I'm so angry. The young mother that contacted me about it this morning, I just apologized to her profusely. She felt like it was directed at her and her family. And my heart is broken, but that's not who we are. And we're going to circle around that family and others and hopefully get to the bottom of it. The retreat this past Saturday was great. I could receive confirmation that I'm as bossy as I ever thought I was. So there's that. But it was really nice. Mark and I had a conversation a while back about how I felt like we were not doing enough to onboard new people. And we had 2 new ones this year, and we were all relatively new. A lot of our commissioners were relatively new to the board, and I was like, we need to do more. And so we did, and it was really fun. We did some personality tests and things like that. And I think we all learned a lot about ourselves and about each other, and we had a lot of laughs at each other's expenses, and it was a lot of fun. And so I appreciate the staff for organizing that and all the information that they brought. There was a ton of information. So I spent some time the next day reading through some of it. Because it was so much, just like the capital improvement projects, it was really cool to see all that and be reminded of all the wonderful things that we're doing in Wendell, because sometimes mean things are what make social media and not the great things that we're doing. And I'd rather us be defined by those great things. We had a lot of good things that happened in here tonight. Things like dump trucks and stuff like that might seem mundane, but they're very important to us. They're very important to Public Works. They're very important. They're important to us providing municipal services to citizens. So they're important, and I was glad to see that we were able to get it now. I remember that from a couple years ago. All right. I believe we need a motion to go into closed session.
Madam Mayor, I move that the board go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318, 11A5.
All right, we have a motion to go in closed session. All in favor?
Aye.